right, this is John Colo with growingyourgreens.com to have another exciting episode for you here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm going to show you guys the urban harvest home right behind me. This is Elise, and actually she's not just a YouTube gardener like I am. She actually been teaching real gardening even before she started YouTube. She's really passionate about teaching people the best way to grow food and to be more sustainable here in Florida. You know, this is a lot different climate than many other places in the country, right? Right now is a winter season, and that's when you grow all the standard annual vegetables. In the summer season, you're growing a whole set of other more heat tolerant plants. She's been gardening for easily over 20 years and has figured out the best varieties to grow in this area and even make seeds available to you. The other amazing thing about her is that all the fertility that she uses on her property comes from her compost bin that is all from locally sourced materials, as well as her worm bin that I'll be showing you guys in this episode. So she brings in no external fertilizers to feed her plants. And you know, I always love showing you guys the beginning because look at this. I mean, around me, I'm on a standard city block. There's basically just lawns all the way around us. Everybody has a lawn, right? You can't eat your lawn, but yet everybody has to go to the grocery store every single week to buy food to eat, right? There is a better way. Rip out your lawn and do what she did over here. She basically just ripped out and flattened her whole property when they originally bought it. They sheet mulched and put in the mulch, and then they started growing on top of it. So let's share with you guys the urban harvest today. All right, guys, so at the street, she basically doesn't have any parking out here for her cars, so they park in the street. But, you know, like most people have lawns, she didn't just want to basically make her food forest out to the street and, you know, have people have problems with it. So basically, she has a nice area here that she's planted things like the mimosa and the pigeon pea, and basically keeps a nice area, maybe like the first 5 feet, looking like lawn-ish. So this kind of looks more like a lawn here in the front. So it's more accepted by, you know, people just driving by. And then actually after that, that's when she starts planting her medicinal crops, which are very important to her, aside from native pollinators, which is also very important. She really tries to focus in this area, having a lot of pollinators and flowers, so it looks more pretty for the neighborhood, as well as also having useful trees, plants, and shrubs. So such as fruit trees, longevity spinach, edible leafy greens. She's got moringa, chaya, and a lot of different fruit trees and fruit bushes here in the front, including the cranberry hibiscus. So yeah, that's what she's done pretty much in the front. And we are here in January, and this is like the down season where things don't grow as quickly because it is a lot colder, less sun in Florida. So yeah, if you come back in the summer, this is going to be probably like completely overgrown, as will the inside. All right, so the cool thing here is that she has a seed library. Some people have those like little libraries like for books in their front yard. Instead, she has a seed library. And during the season, she'll have seeds available for you to take. And actually, she has a sign that explains how to do it. And it says, please take some free vegetable seeds to grow. Take a picture of each color bag next to the label so you remember which seeds are which when you get home. And then they basically have QR codes where you could scan it with your phone and it tells you what to plant, when, cheat sheet, and free gardening education. And then she has a link to her YouTube channel to connect with her, Facebook and Instagram. And so literally she's here to get the community to ask questions to her. You know, she wants it to make it easy for people walking by to reach out to her and talk. Because I mean, really for her, her gardening is not just about growing food, right? It's much more. It's about creating community and having a connection, right? Not only having a connection with nature and the plants, but also having a connection with your neighbors. And unfortunately, in this modern times, right, we're all connected to our phone, sitting on our phone, right? Connected to nobody really on our phone. We're connected to our phone and we're like looking at our phone, not even paying attention to people, right? So that's what, you know, gardening is a great way, and the plants are a great way to bring people together. You know, when they have a huge harvest of string beans, they'll get all together and, you know, their network group will can the string beans together. If they have star fruit, they'll all get together and chop it up and, you know, dehydrate the star fruit and like do things together. So that's very important to her. But yeah, the seed library is one way to get people involved and actually give them free seeds to grow. So if you live here in St. Pete, it's a great place to come and get some seeds that are basically guaranteed to grow in this area, okay? So yeah, this is the front food forest area, and then this is like basically about half of her front yard. And then as we walk up her sidewalk or into her area where she has her annual vegetables. But before we go in there, actually I want to show you guys about 2 crops that I want you guys to grow here in South Florida, right? One is a native to this area and it's right below, right? This is known as a Seminole pumpkin. I have other videos where I've talked about Seminole pumpkins before. Basically, this is the food of the Native Americans that lived in this area before the white man came. The white man came and actually burned all the plants and all the vines, so the Indians in this area basically would starve out and they could no longer depend on their native food that they have been eating for generations. So, you know, if you're in Florida, I want you to grow this pumpkin because it is a perennial pumpkin. Elise told me this is going on like 2 years. This one pumpkin plant has been living for 2 years and producing all year long. In the wintertime, it slows down. It maybe makes 1 or 2 pumpkins, but in the summer, it pumps out the pumpkins. And guys, these are storage pumpkins. They could easily store inside your house once they're fully mature and developed, easily a half a year or even longer. And you can see here, we got one forming right here, right now. And when they're super tiny like this, they look like a little zucchini. And while you could harvest this when they're super tiny and young as a zucchini and eat it, I would say let it grow bigger and get it to be into the storage phase. If you harvest when it's this tender and young, you're not gonna be able to store it. You need to eat it immediately. But yeah, the Seminole pumpkin, I'm a big fan of like Native American, like heirloom crops, you know, that are really acclimated to this particular area, right? Or if you live in other areas that are nice and hot, humid, don't get frost, right? This could be another pumpkin that is also pest resistant because, you know, back in the day, they didn't have pesticides to spray on crops, right? Where did the Indians go to like the nursery to get like pesticide? No. Right? The plants they grew in accordance with nature, and the plants have their own plant defense chemicals that would keep the pest away, all right? Oh, and the other one I want to share with you guys is really fun because underneath the Seminole pumpkin, she also is growing this one right here. This is known as the Sisso spinach, another amazing ground cover that is completely edible and you could add to salads or even cook up. And this thing just basically grows like a weed, can take over and, you know, spread out over an entire area. So the Sisso spinach would be an amazing ground cover underneath, for example, fruit trees, okay? So yeah, these are like more perennial style crops. And then over in this little bin here, the Urban Harvest, basically she has orders that people can pick up. So you can actually order online, and to save shipping and petroleum fuels, right? She'll basically, you know, put it in the box for you, put your name on it, and then you could come by and pick it up. So, you know, a nice waterproof box here, so you could pick up your seeds locally. Because I mean, while she will ship seeds to other places, you know, her focus is focusing on getting people to grow in Florida because that's where she's at. This is where she lives. This is her specialty and what she has literally been doing for the last 20 years to find out all the specific methods you need to do to grow in Florida, especially if you've moved here from like, you know, up north, right? Growing in Florida is a lot different than any other part of the country, okay? So yeah, love that she has seeds available for local pickup. And now we're entering her more traditional raised bed style garden. While she does have roses over on this side, which are beautiful, and also, you know, most people don't know you could eat the rose petals and the rose leaves. You know, rose petals are kind of nice, mild. They make rose water, but also the rose leaves technically are edible. They're known as like a famine food, so most people don't eat them. And then going over to her nice raised bed garden, basically she has these garden beds that some of them she's, has connected. So she has like basically 4-foot square beds made out of the galvanized. And then some of them she basically put together and then she just put a top on. So this is like a 4-foot section, that's an 8-foot section, an 8-foot section, and they're all connected. So this like looks really really nice. You also have a nice place to sit down and then work the garden. This is especially good when you get older, so you don't have to like bend over and work in the ground. Of course, also, you know, when you add mulch to the ground here in Florida, I mean, basically she has sand and all the nutrition kind of gets sucked through the sand and disappears. So that's why, especially in Florida, I would recommend growing in a raised bed where she's topping off these beds with her homemade worm castings and compost 2 times a year. She plants 3 times a year and tops it off 2 times a year to create the fertility she needs to grow some amazing looking plants. Another part of what she's doing that's very important to her, as it is to me also, is that she always lets some of her plants go to seed. She'll have like she'll harvest a lot of the crops, but then she'll let 1 or 2 of the plants maybe go to seed. She'll collect the seeds, and sometimes she'll even just let the plant go to seed and drop the seeds in the garden, and then the seeds will come up on their own when they want to. This way, she's basically creating plants that are stronger, because I've always seen when you try to start seedlings and then move them, they're not as strong as the volunteers that want to get planted. So my ideal garden is to grow all the vegetables, let them drop the seed, and then next year I don't have to replant because everything comes up from seed. So that is what, one of her goals here is, although she does plant a lot of, starts as well. So yeah, right this time of year, of course, she has peppers. I mean, we're here in January in the wintertime. This is their cool season. So this is when they get away with growing normal crops that people in the north would grow over the summer. So a lot of different brassicas, radishes, and turnips, and even tomatoes right now in the winter here in Florida. Of course, we are in a small space, so one of the things she likes to do in a small space is always grow vertically. I'm really big into vertical gardens. She puts up a lot of arch trellises out of the like the hog panel or utility panels available at like feed stores, and then she's basically growing the tomatoes up the panel here as an arch up over to the different sides of the raised beds. And check it out, she's got nice orange tomatoes in January and the winter. I think this is my first orange tomato I've had ever picked in the wintertime. I'm glad I flew all the way here to St. Pete just to eat one amazing fresh picked tomato, because they're not like this when you buy them from the store in the wintertime. Of course, also she's also growing other nice warm crops this time of year, including the eggplant. The eggplant for me in Las Vegas loves the heat. It's one of the most heat tolerant crops, but she's got some nice pretty heirloom style eggplant here. Of course, she's got the Tokyo Bacana. She's got the dinosaur kale, the standard different kinds of Siberian kales, Russian Siberian kales. She's got pigeon peas coming up. And I want to highlight probably her favorite brassica plant that I've never heard about before until today. That grows the best. All right, guys, so one of the crops that she's really passionate about, that she loves, and that I got turned on to today is this one right here. This is basically a mild mustard green. So if you've grown like bok choy, pak choy, Mizuna, these kind of things, this is kind of like related. I forget the exact crosses or what they're, crossed between, but basically it's called Chijimisai. I never heard of this before. And I guess the seeds are not available from everywhere. And if you look at this, I mean, it kind of like looks like maybe a bok choy, pak choy-ish thing, because it has like the nice long stem. But then also, if you look at it, the leaves are really dark, kind of like spinach. And actually, if I feel this, right, the texture of this is nice and thick. A lot of the mustard greens are more like this, the Tokyo Bacana, that's actually very thin, like more lettuce-like. But these are a little bit more thick. And so we're just gonna go ahead and pluck one off here for you guys. And check it out. This basically doesn't have the oxalates like the spinach, of course. It also has the isothiocyanates, which is basically anti-cancer and also good for phase 2 liver detoxification. Lots of minerals in the stem, and I love, you know, I love to use these raw actually on any kind of like mild mustard. I chop up especially the stem because it gives me that crunch that like the bottom of the romaine would give you. Nice and crunchy, very mild, neutral flavor, guys. Not even spicy at all. And then we could go ahead and pinch off the leaf. Once again, guys, it's not super like, you ever buy like spring mix at the store? Like, I hate the texture of that with a passion. Like, it's just, it's limp. This is nice, crisp, and crunchy. You guys gotta try to grow this green. Now, the most amazing thing about this green is that she says, I mean, a lot of these mild mustards tend to bolt very fast. She says that she will plant these like super early in the fall and then harvest them through even May and June. So that's like maybe like a full like 8-9 months of harvesting these baby, nice, tender greens the whole entire time. So that's like really impressive, especially in the nice, warm Florida weather. You know, a lot of the crops in this family, once again, it starts to heat up. These guys bolt really fast. Not this one. So one of the things I asked her was like, what are these things? I'm like, man, these must have cost like a ton. These are like industrial grade, like you see them at like shopping malls or something, kind of like growing containers. She's like, no, these are like basically reused from like the city that basically was using them as culverts. And they're just like the perfect size. They're like industrial grade. And now guess what? Now they're just big containers that are open on the bottom to the ground. So basically there's just like miniature raised beds that she's using to grow lots of different crops, whether it's peppers or leafy greens. She's got some New Zealand spinach over there. I think she's got cauliflower, broccoli planted around. So over here, normally she'd have like turmeric and like ginger planted, but it's the off season. Over here, she has the prickly pear cactus, so you could eat the nopales leaves, and also looks like it's like they're actually fruiting up. She's gonna have some cactus fruits. And then over in this area, this is where she grows the jicama. Not everybody could grow jicama because jicama takes an extraordinary long season. She's already harvested all the, the roots up of the jicama, which is amazing when you get it fresh. It's totally different than when you buy it at the store. And then actually she's letting it go to seed. So the jicama seeds and all the greens of jicama, or also known as yam bean, don't eat it. This is all highly toxic. But you can eat, of course, the root. I always peel the root. And she said that, you know, to make the tubers or the roots, you could harvest them. But then to make the seeds after you harvest the roots, you need to let it go even longer. So these are still not even ready. I mean, once again, this is native to tropical areas, not subtropical areas like we're in right now. All right, so the last thing I want to show you guys in the front yard, where she basically has her annual beds, is basically also in her front yard. She basically has her worm bins, and these are some of the nicest worm bins and approachable worm bins I've seen. I've seen like nasty worm bins on my travels. Trust me, guys. This is nice, neat, and tidy. And basically what she's using is something that many people throw away, right? And I would encourage you guys to grab one. Actually, I think, thinking about it now, somebody dumped one of these on my farm in Puerto Rico. So now I know what I'm gonna do with it. I'm gonna make a worm bin out of it. So if you look closely, you guys can see right behind, literally, this is a cast iron, not fiberglass, bathtub, right? Old houses back in the day will have these cast iron tubs. They probably sell them these days, but they're like super thin, they dent, and now people replace it with fiberglass and other things. But these are old school cast iron tubs that are basically taken out and usually thrown away. They are the best material to have worms in, right? The worms like the same temperature as we do, right? If it's like air conditioned in your house in the summer, you know, the worms don't want it too hot. They also don't want it too cold in the winter. So having in this provides a little bit insulation because it's like, you know, there's airflow inside there. Also the metal, basically will stay cool or get hotter. She also has nice tops on it. This happens to be plastic. You could also use plywood, but you need to make sure the water stays out. She also has this next to her home that retains the heat in the summer and also helps keep this area cool in the winter. It's under a little overhang as well. So if we lift this up, look at this, guys. This is one of the cleanest, neatest worm bins I've ever seen. Got a couple frogs in there. hanging out. And there's a worm guy in this area that'll teach you guys the specifics on how to use this particular kind of worm setup, growing it in the bathtub. And basically, it's very simple. When she wants to basically harvest the castings, it's very simple. She literally just scrapes off the top here. And look at this. She doesn't need to filter it. She doesn't need to strain it. She doesn't need to do anything. This is nice, 100% pure castings. Now, the question you gotta be asking yourself right now is, John, how does she get the worms to come up to the top to do the poop, right? Well, like us, worms don't like to poop where they eat, right? They like to eat and then go somewhere else to poop. And we're after the worm poop. So what she does is basically in the bottom of this bathtub, she lines it with coconut coir or the bedding material. Some people use like shredded newspaper. You know, you could basically take mulch and then sift out all the fines and use mulch as the base layer. Then on top of the base layer, then she puts the food scraps, right? And then on top of the food scraps, she puts the old litter, right? Or the old castings and whatnot. So, you know, that's how she set it up, so that to begin with. But now when she harvests, once again, she just harvests off the top. Look at these nice castings, not even needed to be sifted out. And now when she feeds these guys every so often, she basically will take this and scratch back all of it. So basically she's flipping it over onto the top. This side is empty. She then once again puts down the bedding, the coconut coir, and then she basically puts down the food scraps, and then she basically rolls this back over the top, right? This means all the old castings are up top, and this is like basically the worms like bathroom, right? So they'll come up to the top to poop, they'll go back down to the bottom to their bedding and to the food to eat. Super ingenious. I've never seen this design before, and it really makes me want to keep worms in a tub instead of the different crates and barrels and all the different systems I've seen in the past. And of course, this is an excellent way to get rid of your food scraps. So let me show you the food scraps she's been collecting. She keeps it in sealed buckets, right? She lets it actually break down in the bucket before feeding to the worms so that they have a nice, easier time to eat it. So let's see what we got inside this bucket here. All right, check it out, guys. This is stinky. I often have buckets full of food scraps that should have went to my compost bin that I don't get to use, and you can just see it's all basically rotted down, super soft, but this is gonna be excellent food for the worms. Of course, when you probably empty it in there, you wanna make sure it's not super moist because worms don't like it super moist or drenched, so you gotta also make sure you have the nice moisture content as well. But this looks like some amazing food for the worms, and this system looks like it's working amazingly. One of the easiest systems to have worms at home that I've ever seen. All right, guys, now we're taking you to the backyard where there's like more perennial-ish things. So she has like a little herb garden, which is right outside her kitchen. So it has nice and easy access. And then all along here, I do want to point out, she has a native bee house. So to get like, you know, mason bees and carpenter bees, whatnot. She has a lot of like, this is like a miracle berry fruit that makes everything you eat that tastes sour, tastes sweet for like the next half hour. I had a few this trip, they're really fun. Of course, she has lots of bananas growing here. She's got the pigeon pea, an amazing, not only nitrogen fixer, also chop and drop, but also big food producer here in Florida. You know, all the green peas you could actually, you know, cook up, or you could harvest all the dried peas and beans to use and eat. This is doing amazing here. It doesn't look like they've gotten any dieback in years because she says it barely ever freezes here, which is really amazing to me. And then going into the back, she actually has a nice wide open space because she will give classes actually 2 times a month, which is amazing. But even then, she has quite a productive spot in the backyard to grow food. So one of the classes she gives is for people that don't want to put in a food forest in their front yard yet, or put in raised bed gardens, right? Even if you just have a patio, she'll teach you how to grow in these tower gardens. This one's currently empty, but she has like nice veggies going on in this one here. So if you grow plants vertically, you can actually grow a lot of food in all the different spots. And you know, while she does make her own compost and worm castings for her own personal use, inside these vertical tower garden, she basically buys potting soil to basically emulate what people that are doing this would actually have access to, okay? So that's really cool. But yeah, this amazing thing she gives garden classes on, also looks beautiful. Some of these may have like trellis systems, so you could grow the plants up the trellis system, which I actually haven't seen before. And then coming to the back over here, along the wall, basically along her fence line, she basically has a food hedge. So she has a lot of different fruit trees, fairly densely planted, including the star fruit that's fruiting right now. She's got sapodillas there, pineapples, guavas, lots of different fruits growing there, all pretty tight and close. She keeps this area in the middle here open for classes, although she also does grow sweet potatoes. So you guys can see, I mean, it is January, the sweet potatoes are just starting to emerge and will probably take over this whole space in the summertime. Another thing very important to her is her compost, right? So she has, basically she gets wood chips dropped in and for mulch. So she will use this for mulch as well as the ground cover. This is also an essential nutrient for her making her compost right next door. So let's show you how she makes compost using all locally sourced ingredients. So at her back gate, of course, she has her recycling bin here that the city picks up, but then she's created this little wooden box here with a little tote here and a lid here, right? And she used to have a sign here, but she gets so much now, she took away the sign. But basically she has her local community and the surrounding blocks knows that this is where they get to drop off their food scraps and compost, right? A lot of municipalities may have green bins that you can put your food scraps in, like in California, and yard waste in. They don't have anything like that here or where I'm currently living in Las Vegas. They just have the garbage bin or the recycle bin. So now she can let people, instead of throwing away food scraps, making their trash can all messy with the food scraps, they drop it here and then she turns their food scraps into compost for her yard. As well as, of course, she has her own compost and works with other local, organizations, food pantries to pick up bad and expired food that she will also compost. So let's show you her compost bins that actually were custom made, that are some of the nicest compost bins I've ever seen. All right, guys, so most people may use the pallet compost bins. You just get the pallets, line them up, and that's like old school, simple, easy, and cheap, right? This is not them. She started using the pallets, but then the pallets would rot out. It looked kind of messed up, and while you do get some good airflow, this system provides even better airflow. She basically just took a pressure-treated lumber, and then she has like a top that's totally removable. She's basically got the galvanized mesh fencing material, and she basically just lined it. So this is the top that comes up. Also she has these pieces that'll just slide up. I'll show you how it works on the other side over there. So the front can totally just slide up so she could easily access the bin. Meanwhile, all sides have this mesh so that there's good airflow flowing in and the compost can happen faster. A matter of fact, in the summertime, she can basically get one whole bin to finish in about 4 months or so. Maybe in the winter time when it's cooler out, it could take 8 to 9 months. But yeah, this is the bin that's currently composting right now. And in the olden days, she used to actually go in there and turn it. But now she has so many other things to do. Turning her compost is the last thing she wants to do. So even without turning, this will get the temperature, and also compost happens. Even if you don't turn it, right? Turning is better if you want to cycle through it faster. But if you just got more, time than labor, then let it sit and provide you have a proper mix of the browns to the greens. So all the greens are basically donated, and then all the browns are all the wood chips that get dropped off, and she composts. And check out the temperature inside there right now, guys. This is the temperature. This is the thermometer I recommend and I use myself, the REO Temp. Don't get these cheap thermometers. These are legit. It's about 140 degrees inside her pile at this time. So yeah, this stuff's truly composting, guys, using free local resources from all their neighbors so that her neighbors don't have to send their food waste to the landfill to create methane gas. All right, guys, so this is the anatomy of her compost bin. Basically, she has two of them, and side by side, And then she has this front that literally just lifts up. And check it out, you could take that piece out, and then you could also take this piece out. So I really love the modular design of this. And then of course you could get in here and work down below. She basically has cardboard, sheet mulch on the ground, and then she has the same material on the ground. You know, earthworms could come in if they want. But you get good airflow. So I really love this design, just using like 2x2s, all framed out really nice, screwed together. So yeah, this has to be one of the probably nicest, most pro compost bins I've seen. When she's fully going, she'll basically have 3 going, because that's about how much material she gets regularly, 2 to 3. And then she always has 1 bin full of her carbon source. I want to encourage you guys to get and, you know, store some carbon on your site, whether you want to have a bin full of the chips to use for composting, whether you want to spread it all over your ground. Carbon is a very important resource for gardeners. And speaking about carbon, another thing she does with carbon sources such as wood is over here. She will actually make her own biochar. That is also another resource that then from wood, she puts the carbon back into her garden. She also uses the biochar in the compost drop-off box so that it absorbs the moisture and any funky smells that may be in there before she gets to dump it out. I think it's every Friday is when she processes the dropped off compost to make her compost, okay? Now, the last part of this episode before we interview Elise is actually, I wanna go into the box behind me. This is literally her seed shed that is temperature and humidity controlled, because a big part of what she has learned to be successful here in Florida is you gotta grow the right variety. She's experimented over the last 20 years to find the best variety of seeds and plants to grow in this area if you want to have a successful garden. Some of these seeds are very hard to acquire and to, you know, buy. So if like you say, oh, kale does good. Well, what kind of kale does good here? Because there's all kinds of kale. So she's got the specific varieties of kale that has been tested, tried and true, some of which she actually grows herself or with other community members to make available to you guys. So let's show you guys in her secret seed shed out back. All right, guys, let's go in the secret seed shed. Basically, she's got a refrigerated trailer back here where she stores all her seeds, does all her storage and collection and work, literally. All right, so let's head back inside. All right, guys, welcome to the little seed shed. She's got a CoolBot system with basically an air conditioner running around the clock and a dehumidifier to keep it the right temperature and humidity, especially here in South Florida. It is critical to keep your seeds properly. Most of you guys are probably not gonna set up a little room or, you know, a seed shed to store your seeds. So probably one of the best places you guys can store your seeds is in a mason jar, capped off under vacuum in your fridge. Is probably one of the best places you guys can store your seeds. Over on this side, these are some of the very seeds that actually she grows out in her garden. She also has a bulk seed club that you can join, and every quarter she will send you seeds that will grow and proven in this area, although she also has people in her seed club where they basically get a whole different shipment of seeds every quarter to try out in their garden, right, that she loves and has grown out successfully in the past. So that's partly what this side is used for, her seed club. And then over on this side, these are the seeds that you could just buy by the pack, right? This is what she grows and sources from trusted seed companies. Like this is her own brand of seed company here, the Urban Harvest. And this is the variety of the Casper eggplants that has been proven to grow well in this area. She also sources seeds from other seed companies that are small community focused, such as these ones here. This is the Chijimisai. This is from the Experimental Farm Network. So this is the Chijimisai Tatsoi that I talked about earlier, her favorite kind of leafy green that grows for a long season. In addition, she uses the workingfood.org seed company, which is another Florida-based local company to have some of the seeds that are gonna really do well here in Florida. And of course, her favorite larger seed company to work with is the Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, that also works with small localized farmers and gives them contracts for like 5-6 years, you know, to produce some seeds to try to keep the money local instead of going to large, big corporations. So yes, and then basically all these varieties here, she's grown out year after year after year, and she knows these perform well. She has a full website as well as YouTube videos to show the guys how to, you know, grow these seeds and have a successful garden. If you come to the St. Pete, Tampa area, right, and not have success, right, get these seeds, follow what she says. She's doing it successfully for many years. You too could have a successful garden here in the St. Pete, Tampa area, and even just basically generally all of South Florida, because the weather is very similar across all those places. She's found the best types of tomatoes to grow, cucumbers to grow, watermelons to grow, different zucchini squashes, different kinds of leafy greens, including she loves the Ethiopian kale, different kinds of the callaloo or amaranth greens, the broccoli, the different sweet peas, you know, snap beans, different kinds of lima beans and peas and carrots and radishes, turnips, sunflowers, fennel, marigolds, herbs, chives, other kinds of flowers. But of course, of all of them, this is her favorite one of all the beans, and she's really excited about this one because, you know, most people that grow beans, we grow beans as annual crops. We have to keep replanting them every year. I mean, in California, I planted scarlet runner beans, and they would basically die back into the year, and even to this date, you know, some plants will come back the next year for me without me even doing anything, which is amazing. The runner beans haven't been successful for her, but what has been successful is the PRBB. What's a PRBB? Puerto Rico black beans. So these Puerto Rico black beans, she said she's had them grow multiple years as a perennial and continually produce the bean pods to eat. Like, wow. I'm like, man, I have farmed in Puerto Rico. I never even heard of these. So I got to bring some of these back myself to Puerto Rico to see if I could grow these like up fences and as annuals and have beans literally to eat year round. You know, much like, I mean, pigeon peas are a bean also that also grow year round. Of course, they have their cycles. But yeah, I'm really excited to learn about the Puerto Rican black beans. I mean, this is how we learn, guys. We network amongst each other to find out, hey, what works for you? I could share with her what works for me, and maybe it'll work for her, maybe it won't. And you could learn from me, we could learn from her, but especially if you live in this area, right? Then you definitely want to learn from Elise here, because she knows what's up, what to do. She grows the loofahs as well as the moringa seeds and does so many amazing things. I think the last part of this episode, we're going to sit down with Elise and interview her and learn about why she's so passionate about gardening and, more importantly, creating communities here in South Florida. So now the pleasure of introducing you guys to Elise Pickett of the Urban Harvest, that I got to show you guys her amazing place. And Elise, you have a YouTube channel yourself, right? That's how I found you. Yeah. Actually, that's how I showed up here today. So thanks for having me. What is your YouTube channel? Because I know you go even way deeper than I ever could in my short little video that I made here today.
Yeah, so my channel is The Urban Harvest. The website, all of the social media, everything is The Urban Harvest. And I just really dive deep into a lot of Florida-specific subtropical climate type growing conditions. Also, a lot of urban growing. So I really focus in on small space gardening and how to help people maximize what they've got.
Wow. So besides YouTube and all the social media and websites that I'll post the links in the description below so you guys could find her easily, I've heard you've been on like Martha Stewart and HGTV. Like, how did you go from like a regular gardener, maybe YouTuber? I mean, yeah, I know you were teaching gardening before you started YouTube. How do you go there and get picked up by these famous places?
It's been bananas. I think YouTube definitely helped a lot, and it's kind of how you found me as well. Yeah. Just people learning, and social media is just its own animal nowadays. But every time they've come to me and said, I've been seeing your content. You have a lot to share. It's inspiring. Would you be interested in working with us and sharing more with a larger audience? And so it was very weird to go from just doing it myself for my own family, for my friends. I started teaching some of my friends, like they'd ask questions. And so it it was this very like weird, very rapid upscale from just helping a few friends to doing this for a living. But now I've been doing it for 10 or 12 years, full-time teaching gardening, and it's just been an amazing journey.
Wow, so that's amazing. So tell me about your specialty, of course, which is actually helping people in like tropical, humid, hot zones to grow more food. Like,
yeah. So when I started out, I got really frustrated because I wanted to do like organic vegetable gardening and all of the things that are trendy, but are actually incredibly important for your health. And a lot of the books I would read, the blogs, the things back then, you didn't have the YouTube world as readily available, and there wasn't very much Florida specific. So I'd follow their guidance and then I'd fail because it's like, you don't start your garden in spring here, right? You start it in fall. And so it took me a really long time to figure out those logistics. But now that I have, I think there's so much potential growing in our climate. Like I always say, I'm like very low maintenance gardener. I also don't have a lot of time. Mom of 2, I teach, my life is busy. And so like, we have this amazing opportunity to not actually have to put away food or like do these things. We can grow year round here. So like beans, for example, I put bush beans in for like spring and fall. I grow yard long beans over the summer months and winged beans in the winter. And so instead of me having to grow a ton of food because I'm in a subtropical climate, I have these workarounds where I can pretty much grow the same food group year round.
so do you have an off season? Like, cause I mean, a lot of you guys watching right now is the winter and maybe you're stuck inside watching my YouTube videos. So that's good. Thank you. But do you have an off season here where you're just like, all right, I'm going to go on vacation now because I don't have to tend to the garden?
I wish. Sometimes I wish. It's a bounty. It's like a blessing and a curse. We can grow year round here. I do. That's kind of almost not my niche or my specialty because everybody, once you do get used to the growing seasons here in Florida, you understand, like a lot of our annual vegetables in particular, you plant them in fall, you grow them out in winter, you go a little into spring, and then once the summer rains come, you're done. And so there's actually a ton of crops that we can grow over the summer months. They're just very unique and maybe a little lesser known. And so I do grow year round, but I will admit this past summer was the first year in probably a decade where I just didn't garden. I didn't actively garden. But the beautiful thing now that this homestead is so established is I was still harvesting the entire time off of my perennials and my volunteers and everything else. So even though I wasn't out in the garden having to work, I didn't have a lack. I was still able to harvest all my leafy greens and root veggies and herbs and fruits. And it's a lot of work sometimes, but it's also, it's pretty rewarding.
Yes, I mean, one of the things I've seen going to hot climates like Arizona, like Florida, that people really get into their growing season, where normal annuals are grown. So like, in Florida, people have their gardens in the fall, winter, a little bit of spring until it gets too hot. And then they take the time off, right?
Yeah.
This infuriates me so bad. I mean, it's not hot in Florida. I'm in Las Vegas in the summertime. It's like last year, it was over 100 degrees over 100 days. Don't even talk to me about the heat. You could grow through the heat, no problem. Why do people take time off? I mean, I don't know, bigger colleges and universities are telling people, oh, you can only grow stuff in the winter. What are some amazing vegetables and crops that you could easily harvest through the summer, either working or not working like you did this past summer?
Yeah, so in the summer when the heat is too much, anything that they call like southern veggies is that for a reason. They're typically really well adapted to that. So I plant collards in shade. They grow all season long. That's something most people are very familiar with. You can also do any of your like drying beans. It's a really good time of year. So like lima beans, cowpeas, those kinds of things. They don't need pest management. They don't need help from you. They just do their thing in the heat and the humidity and the rain. It doesn't bother them a bit. Anything in the amaranth family does really well. You could do Malabar spinach. There's about a bazillion leafy greens year
Keep
round.
going. Everybody needs to know this.
Yes. So all of those. I also rely a lot on the perennials in the summer months because they're just hardy and they're well adapted and they can grow year round. So I harvest a lot of chaya and longevity spinach and Sisso spinach. Sweet potato leaves are often overlooked. Really incredibly nutritious and delicious. Also, the beans that I mentioned before, that's another leafy green. They actually reserve those leaves in Africa from cowpeas. That's traditionally served to children and pregnant women because they're so incredibly nutrient dense. That's often overlooked. I also grow unique heirloom varieties. So like tomatoes, typically, we don't do so well in the humidity in the middle of the summer. Everglades tomatoes rock it. I do Chinese python snake beans.
Oh, I didn't get to show that.
That's an odd one. Well, that's going to be in the summer.
Other one.
I
forgot to show
the
that.
betony, that's a good one. That's a perennial native that you eat the root on. But the snake bean looks like a snake. It gets a couple yards long. It's crazy, but that's a great squash substitute. I grow loofah. That's another squash substitute. A lot of people will grow it for the sponge, but when it's harvested immature, you can eat it as a squash substitute. It's like apples to apples, really easy to grow. And if you've ever grown loofah, you will have more dish sponges than you know what to do with. So like harvest as much as you can to eat, and then whatever you miss, let them turn into sponges. I could go on and on. I teach this for a living, and the varieties are something that really get me lit up, and it's just so fun to explore. But we could probably spend the next 2 hours discussing it.
And you already have videos on your channel already. Links down below to her channel. So I mean, probably the main thing for me that's very important, so that you don't take the summers off, is you get the right plants, the right genetics. As she listed a whole bunch just now with you guys, a lot of crops can easily tolerate the summer heat and weather here in Florida. She's proven that time and time again. That's why she makes the seeds available to you guys. So you want to talk about the seeds you make available and why it's so important for you to curate the specific seeds and even some of the ones you grew yourself and get them out to people, the very ones that you grow that will do good in the summer, and also, of course, other ones in the off season. Yeah,
so I have started, everything's kind of been like, as students and clients and everything have asked, I try to provide the resources best I'm able. And so I would get them used to the 4 S's of growing food in season in Florida, which is sun, season, soil, and seed. And so they're like, okay, great, I get it. Variety matters, but like which variety? And so I ended up coming up with or creating a curated collection of seeds that are designed. I've personally grown every single variety myself in my garden. I may not have them all growing every single year because there's only so much space, but they're all tried and true and proven. And so I have that resource on my website. You can go there and shop them. I do ship across the US. And then I also do local seed pickup. If you're in the like St. Pete, Tampa Bay area, you can pick them up from my house. But the point is to take the guesswork out of it. So instead of, I love me a good Baker Creek catalog, but you look at it and there's like 300 tomatoes to look through. And, some of them do great here, but not all of them, not a lot of them. And so this is kind of just like narrowing that funnel so that you get to pick from like maybe 10 varieties of tomatoes that I know do well. And then you're like, oh, I like slicers or I like cherries. And it's a little simpler. It's less overwhelming. And then I also did, from that same concept, was a seed club. And so people wanted just a little bit more hand-holding. And so they had follow-up questions because I'm telling people to plant, Chinese python snake bean. And they're like, how the heck do I cook it, right? Or how do I use it? Or when is it ready to harvest? And so the seed club goes out quarterly with each season every 3 months. And I ship the seeds to your door, these kind of, more unique varieties timed to the season, and then they tell you, okay, this is what you might expect, this is what it grows like, this is what it tastes like, this is what you do with it. And so it's kind of like that next step in guiding people to start understanding and learning and experimenting with these more unique but incredibly well adapted varieties. I don't have time to garden, and so I need things that grow themselves for the most part. And so the variety is really that like key that unlocks that door so that you can grow a huge amount of food without as much effort
and less work. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as I've gotten more mature in my age, I try to plant easier crops that are like less maintenance. Like a girlfriend that's like low maintenance, that doesn't have to do her hair and makeup and like for a half hour before you leave the house. I mean, you guys, or maybe there's guys out there that have to do whatever and make their beard good or whatever too. But like, we want low maintenance crops, and I'm glad that this is what she's come to realize also, as I have, and hopefully you guys will learn this too, because it makes gardening and growing food a whole lot easier. Grow the things that do really well for you, and let somebody else, like the local farm, grow the harder stuff, right? And just go down the street to get the stuff that's hard. You go to the stuff that's easy, and then have such a bounty you can share it with all your friends. And the other thing I want to say is, although she has specialized in finding the best crops for, this specific area, St. Pete, Tampa area, right? The one she's, tried and used, can also grow in other, very hot, tropical, humid climates as well. And maybe even hot, dry climates, because she ships her seeds to people in Arizona and whatnot. So, if you're looking for varieties because you haven't had success wherever you live and it's somewhere hot and humid, I'm thinking like Louisiana, Georgia, like all on the Gulf Coast, right? I mean, and even like other places like out southwest, definitely worth a shot to try some of these seeds, because if they're going to do good here, you have a high probability they're going to definitely work somewhere else. All right, so the next question I have for you, Elise, is, what I love about you is you're like me. Like, I have 2 standard American like tract houses with a standard lot. Like, right? Most people don't live on acreage. They don't have farms and all this acreage, right? And you make it happen as a mom, working your brains out and doing all kinds of things in a small space. I mean, I'm kind of like a single guy that does this too. But you really focus on using a small space to produce an enormous amount of food. And so how can you help other people that have small spaces, either like us, which we just have a residential house, tract house space, or even less space like a patio in a condo or an apartment? How can you help get them growing?
Yeah, I think that's one of the very frequently asked question, and something that it's all up here. It's all in your head that you need space to grow food. And they've just drilled into us basically a commercial agriculture model where we have these huge row crops and we have 50 feet rows of beans.
Everything's spanning 2 feet apart? Like,
yes,
come on.
No, none of that is a reality, or it doesn't have to be. Like, that is something that either you're a very serious homesteader or you're a farmer. That is what they do. That is not what you need to do. And so I'm on a 5,600 square foot lot. I'm on less than 1/10 of an acre, and that counts like the house and like the whole thing. And I'm still able to grow all of my leafy greens. Haven't purchased those in I don't know how long, like probably 7 to 10 years. I haven't I mean, if we're on a vacation or something and I'm out of the area, I'll buy something. But I eat a lot of our fruit, not all of it. I do have kids. It's hard to keep up with. But like herbs and just, there's so much bounty. I put away enough tomatoes for the entire year. And this is all working out of like, I think I calculated out one time, like my annual vegetable garden space is like 1,200 square feet. Wow. So just like a handful of beds, as long as you're intensive and keeping up with that rotation, you can really grow a lot in a small space. But here in my homestead, I try to give examples of different ways to grow. So growing in raised beds, growing in containers. I really love vertical growing. Everything. I have vines and everything goes up, tomatoes, watermelon, all of it. But in particular, if you're incredibly limited on space and all you have is your little balcony garden, there you can still grow food. And so I love vertical gardens. You can, instead of a single pot with like a tomato plant in it or something, you could fit 50, 60 plants in that 3 square foot. So when you compound that, and let's say you have a small 10 by 10 balcony or patio or whatever, you could easily fit 3 or 4 of these towers and have a couple hundred plants growing that you can continuously harvest from. And so don't let yourself be limited by your space. It is not true. And you can grow food no matter your space. I mean, even if you don't have a balcony, grow some microgreens on the windowsill. Everybody can grow something.
Grow some sprouts inside your kitchen.
Yeah, there's always potential. There's always potential.
Wonderful. So another thing I'm really curious about learning from you is, what are your favorite varieties of like native Florida edible crops, right? That you've learned that literally have been passed down from Native Americans or other, heirloom varieties that basically do here, that you basically plant and you literally walk away. This is how easy it can be, right? Before we had all these pesticides and stuff. I mean, if you just look out in nature, Everglades or wherever, things grow like there's no fertilizer, pixies spraying fertilizer. There's no like people spraying Roundup. I mean, and things just take over the place. So what are the true crops that you found native to Florida that just really just take off?
Go bananas. Okay, so for annuals, I would say the shoo-ins are Everglades tomatoes.
Yep.
A lot of people know that one. Less people probably know about the Seminole pumpkin. They found them. They call them tree pumpkins initially because the Seminole people actually had them growing wild and hanging out of the trees as the Spanish explorers were coming through. So clearly they can grow themselves. I have a Seminole pumpkin vine that's going on 2.5 years now. It slows down significantly in the winter, but then just keeps on going. They can be they get caterpillars a little bit. Sometimes I'll hand pick the little teeny tiny seedling when I put it out for like a week or two. And then after that, it's on its own. Another great annual variety that I have is, the name is Puerto Rican black bean. We actually don't know. That's kind of one of those things with heirloom gardening. You don't really know where it is or who it came from or whatever. It's kind of fun that way. But who gave it to me, the people who gave it to me called it Puerto Rican black bean. We think it's a cowpea of some kind, but this thing is absolutely prolific. I'm talking like 10 to 12 beans per pod, more beans than you can, 2 to 3 plants should provide you with like 10 plus pounds of beans a year.
Wow.
Insane production.
Wow.
And I usually, not all of them will overwinter here, but I usually, if let's say I have like 10 plants, I might have like about a quarter, maybe 3, 4 of them overwinter and continue producing in the spring. And so these are plants, I've grown them in shade, sun, dirt, like the native sandy soil, nice garden soil, with water, without water. They grow no matter what. And that's the kind of thing that I look for when I garden because I don't have to do anything for them. A few other natives, elderberry, often overlooked, but that is a native and it grows as medicine or jelly if you don't even want to think about it as medicine or whatever you want to use it for, pies. There's a lot of uses for that. That's beautiful plants, very easy to grow. One that a lot of people actually try to kill very aggressively, Spanish needle. It is a native plant. It's like a kind of a ground cover, but not really. It's like a low herbaceous plant, the one with the little tiny white daisies. And people rip it out all the time. I grow it with purpose and intention. They're great in salads and leafy greens and just like a raw veggie, toss it in a smoothie or juicing. It is also one of the first foods for bees in our area. It's one of the first flowers to come in bloom, so it's really important bee food, but it's medicinal as well. My Eastern medicine doctor and herbalist friend, Bob Lindy, he teaches classes and does walks, and it is proven, my whole family does it now, but it's an incredibly powerful for cough and congestion. And so think about it kind of sort of like your Dayquil or whatever. You take a handful of the leaves, you eat the leaves, and your cough is gone for a couple hours. And it also, most of those other like over-the-counter medicines are just suppressing it. This one's actually healing you. It's antibacterial and antifungal. And so it's creating not only a reduced cough so that you're more comfortable, but it's solving the problem. And so not only is this like nutrient dense food that's medicine for us and important for pollinators, and people are just spraying it and ripping it out. It just blows my mind. The chickens love it if you have chickens. So there's just so many uses for that one. Florida betony is another fun one. Snake root, it looks like a rattler snake tail like chunk. In the spring, they're delicious. They're light, white, crispy, like not flavorful, but flavorful. Like they're just simple and really, really tasty to snack on. So that's a great one. It grows itself. That one also grows in part shade. A lot of veggies and stuff, especially like fruiting veggies, need a little bit more sun. That's something that can grow in shade. So if you're shade heavy, that's a good one. We can go on and on and on and on. I could do this for days. So just a sampling, but
wow. I mean, this lady is a wealth of knowledge. Just being here with her, I've learned so much, and I maybe outmatched. So maybe you should check out her YouTube channel because she knows so much. It's just like incredible, like all the things that I've learned just walking around with her, touring her yard before I made the videos. And I know one of the things she's really into is basically plant medicines that I know very little about. So share with us maybe like 2 different plant medicines that you're growing that you're so passionate about that you think people should know about that can, help them.
So elderberry is really well known, so I'm just going to skip over that. You can do your own research there. One that I think a lot of people just casually talking, and I'm not a trained I am not an herbalist. This is all just experience and taking here and there classes. So take that with a grain of salt. But passion fruit leaves
Right.
are medicinal, and they're very good for calming like circular thoughts. So like when you're sitting at your desk or laying awake at night and you're like, golly, like I've got to do this.
Like
and
ruminating.
Yes, and just going in circles. Tea with that blended into it. It's kind of flavorless. It doesn't taste good or bad. It doesn't have much flavor, so I'll usually pair it with like maybe lemon balm or Tulsi basil or something like that. But it's very good for like slowing those thoughts down. It does not put you to sleep. It is not at all like a sleep. It doesn't do that. It just allows you to focus a little bit and to calm and focus. So that's a really lesser known one, I think. And then I am also just flavor wise and nutrient and everything. I love Tulsi basil. I put that in all of my blends. But I also do like comfrey. I grow that. Calendula. I make my own salves and ointments to heal cuts and scrapes and bug bites. It's a really fun world to dive into. There's a lot out there that we use as food or flowers that also have this alternative purpose.
Wonderful. So let's talk about, as it's raining, we got to shut the camera off here really soon. What are your like 3 top varieties of annual vegetables you grow?
I always tell people grow what you actually eat, not what you think you should grow. So with
But
that
what would you
said,
recommend people grow?
For me, I like Ethiopian kale. Is a really good one. That's a very low maintenance one. I have it grow wild in the yard. I don't even need to put it in a bed. It's a leafy green, grows a lot longer than a lot of the other leafy greens. I really enjoy the Seminole pumpkin. I just really love it. Soups, roasted veg. There's a lot of uses, and it's like butternut squash. It is so rich and flavorful and sweet. I love it. And then I would say maybe the Puerto Rican black beans. We eat a lot of beans in our family, and that one is just so prolific and easy to grow, and it's identical to the black beans that you would have in the store.
Wow. So I guess the last thing I want to ask you about is, how can somebody buy all these amazing seeds from you?
Yeah.
So they could start being successful growing here in Florida or other hot, warm, tropical climates.
I do have my website's kind of like where everything can come from. So I have all of the things there, theurbanharvest.com, and that has my seed shop on it. We do mail across the country, also do the local pickup. I do a lot of classes. I have a homesteading workshop coming up, urban homesteading workshop coming up, I think the end of February, maybe the beginning of March. Time drifts with me, but it's scheduled. So I have all of my events listed out on the website. I also do a little bit of online actual classes where they're online on demand. I do the YouTube channel, of course. So I have a cookbook. If you're getting used to some of these heirloom varieties that are like weird or not as familiar with us to use, like Egyptian spinach or just all of these off the wall things. I have recipes to get you used to that. The seed club, if you wanted to sign up for that, that's on the website. So really head there and that'll get you started. And if you have any questions, it's actually me, answering. And so you can actually ask questions and an AI bot won't be the one answering.
Wow. That's amazing in this day and age. So the final question for you, Elise, is, what words of wisdom do you want to share with all my gardeners today before we sign off?
Don't give up and just keep trying to find what works in your area. If I had given up, I wouldn't be where I am today. Not from a business perspective, but just a food growing perspective. I failed a lot in the beginning. But when I was a kid, I saw it done. And so I knew it could be done. And so I kept going. And so I would say, even if you had a failed crop or you suck at growing tomatoes or whatever it is, just keep trying. And eventually it'll click once you find that one variety or that one mentor or whoever it is. It just, once you get it going, it just provides so much for you and your body and your community and your health, and just everything thrives from there.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I think for me, what I would say is that, when you fail, you didn't actually fail. You actually succeeded in learning how not to do something.
There you go.
So that means next time you just got to flip it in your head, flip a script, right? You need to do it differently. Find a mentor like, Elise in this area for sure, or somebody else, online or whatever. And try different things, because at some point it's like you go to Las Vegas, you put your money on the black, and half the time or more than half the time you lose, but sometimes you're going to hit. So that's what it is. The combination of your techniques you're using, the specific seed you're using, the soil you're using, but you try enough times, something's finally gonna work. So you guys can do it. We're successful. We've both failed more than we've succeeded, but we succeed plenty. And as you kind of get more mature and do this more often, you tend to fail a little bit less because you kind of see what works and what doesn't, and you don't repeat your past mistakes. So yeah, you guys have that to look forward to as well. So if you guys enjoyed this episode here with Elise today and her amazing homestead here in the city, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Also, more importantly, share this with other people that live in the Tampa, St. Pete, and even surrounding South Florida area so that they can learn some of the best ways to grow food in this unique climate zone where she doesn't have any breaks during the year. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new upcoming episodes. I've come out every 5 days. You never know where show up, what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. And make sure you click the little bell to get notified as many videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 1,700 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys how to grow your own food at home. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep on growing.